Hey guys, my name is Mitch. I'm one of the co-owners of Mesa Fresca, a Mexican-inspired restaurant in the west end of Kingston, and I'm going to show you how to do a couple different kind of dips that you can have with your friends and family over the holidays. So we're going to do guacamole and pico de gallo, kind of the way we do it at the restaurant. Lots of different variations on how you can do these dips, but I'm just going to show you how we've done it for the past couple of years, and it seems to be pretty popular and successful. So what you're going to need for guac is a bunch of nice ripe avocados, tomatoes, red onion, jalapeno, and we use also salt, cumin, and lime juice. I feel like one of the biggest problems people have with guac is trying to figure out how to pick a ripe avocado when you're at the store. So what you're looking for essentially is, one, think about how or when you're going to use it, and if it's in a couple of days, then you're probably looking for something a bit more firm. You're looking for it to be a bit soft, but no air pockets, and not mushy. And then if it is exactly how you want it and you got it, take it home, put it in the fridge. It'll keep until you are ready to use it. If it's not quite ripe enough and you need to use it in a couple of days, leave it on your counter and it'll get there for when you need to use it. So for this recipe, we're just going to do kind of a small batch. We'll probably use about 12 to 15 avocados. Make sure you have a sharp knife. Probably one of the things that people are scared of the most. You're a lot more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than you are the sharp knife, as odd as that sounds. So just gonna take the avocados, spin them around. You can, if you're not comfortable doing it in your hand, you can do it on the cutting board, and you're just gonna split them up. You are gonna have some imperfections. You are gonna have some dark spots. We'll deal with that once we start scooping them out. But yeah, for now you're just taking a bunch of avocados. I think we'll stop there. All right, also I forgot cilantro. Definitely need some cilantro. I mean, some people really don't like it. If you don't like it, take it out. A lot of this stuff too is to taste. So, I mean, you have the core ingredients for it. If there's certain things you don't like or like more of, don't like, then put more, put less, whatever you want. Generally speaking with the avocados, if there are some really dark spots, you can take them out. Usually in the end, it doesn't really matter. If it's moldy or brown, then you probably don't want to add it into your dip, but otherwise, it's all pretty fair game. The next part that people kind of feel uncomfortable with the avocados is getting the pit out. If you want, you can use the back of a spoon. You can use your hand to kind of like pop it out. If it is really ripe, it might just fall out. Otherwise, you can use a knife and just pop them out like that. Just kind of knock it off. Pull it off the side of your knife. That's the easiest and quickest way. Also, a bit intimidating if you feel like you might chop your hand off a bit. All right, next you're just gonna grab a spoon, go around the outsides. If there are, like I said, if there are any imperfections, get rid of them. Keep the inside, dump the shell, and just find a bowl that's kind of big enough that you can move it around a bit, add a few more ingredients, obviously, and mix it up. If you do feel like when you're doing this that you get some really firm avocados and it's not coming out very nice, as much as it is not great, just toss it out. It's not worth it because it'll just give a weird taste and texture to what you're trying to do. You're looking for it to be soft, a bit creamy, and just mash easily for when you're trying to mix it up. All right, so once you have them all in the bowl, you're gonna mash it all up. I would suggest, and what we kind of do at the restaurant is, you're gonna need some lime juice in the end anyway. Take some limes, squeeze them on to start. One, it makes it easier to mash. Two, it prevents it from oxidizing, so it won't go brown or, yeah, I guess brown as quickly. So just cut up a few limes, probably with this size of batch, just 2 or 3. You can get one of these guys anywhere, or use your hands. Limes aren't too bad because they don't have seeds in them generally. And just squeeze them over top. Again, I said 2 or 3. It depends how kind of limey you like it. And it'll depend on kind of the texture you have in the end, because this is the only liquid going in to the dip itself. So usually we do it in bigger batches at the restaurant. For this purpose, you can either use your hands, you can use a spoon, or usually what we end up using is a potato masher to get them all kind of just mixed in. Some people like guacamole smoother, some people like it chunkier. Again, kind of go with what you enjoy. I'll just get your hands in there. All right, so the next step for us that we usually do is tomatoes. Romas are nice, just kind of, you want something with a bit better of a skin. You're not trying to get a lot of moisture, whether it's with the guacamole or with the pico. So you want something kind of firm with a nice skin on it. We get most of our produce from avocadoes in Kingston, as a lot of restaurants do. Awesome people, awesome quality ingredients. Like I said, I'll probably end up using maybe 2 or 3 for this this size batch. If you like it with a bit more tomatoes inside, great. If you don't, then don't use as many. So usually you just cut them in quarters. And like I said, you're trying to get a lot of the moisture away from these. So as tedious as it is, once you cut it in quarters, we de-seed them. So you're looking to get rid of the stem, you're looking to get rid of all the seeds inside, which when you're making large batches can be extremely annoying. But for this purpose, not too bad. Some people don't want to do it this way because it looks like it might cut my hand off. You can do it laying down, whatever you feel comfortable with, that will get the result that you want for the de-seeding process. If you're using a bunch of tomatoes, the other thing is a lot of these ingredients that I'm using for the guac, if you're doing the guac first, you can reuse into the pico. So if you think you might have cut too many tomatoes, or when you end up using cilantro or red onion, whatever it is, it's okay. We'll end up using it for something else after, and it'll all come together. All right, so afterwards, again, it depends what size of chunks you like. You're gonna dice the tomatoes in the end, so lengthwise, turn them around, whatever size of chunks you want in there, you can make happen. All right, tomatoes done. Just chuck them right in. next thing we do at the restaurant is red onion. Probably don't want a ton of it for something this size. I'm gonna grab one but not use all of it. Red onion, depending on the season, can be a little potent. One of the tricks that Allison, one of my business partners and our head chef, uses is to soak red onion in water real quick right before you use it. It takes away a bit of the harshness to it, and it won't kind of overpower whatever dip or sauce you're making. So again, some people like it a bit chunkier, bigger pieces for red onion in their dips. If you do, go for it. If you like a finer dice, then you can do that. So again, I'm not too worried about how much I'm gonna have here because I'm probably just gonna end up using it for the pico afterwards, which is a great way to use up multi-purpose your ingredients when you're doing something, especially when you're preparing it for your friends and family and don't want to throw things away or waste your time when you have a lot of things going on. The nice part about doing guac too is that it's not really one of those dips that's a beauty contest. You can rough chop things, you can kind of practice your knife skills if you like, but overall it's not going to affect the flavor of it in the end, and it's going to look messy either way. So, all right, so red onion for a batch this size, probably a quarter of a red onion, a decent sized red onion. So I'm just going to use half of what I have, put the rest aside, and use it after for the pico. All right, so guac, tomatoes, red onion. Last one for us is cilantro. I know some people do or don't like cilantro. We use a ton of it everywhere in the restaurant and in most of our dips and salsas, maybe all of them actually. We get some awesome cilantro from Bert's Greenhouse out in Odessa. Again, try to support local when you can. Super great products out there, especially in Kingston. With all the amazing restaurants we have, there's some really great suppliers that you can go to even as a just a home cook. So I just grabbed a bunch. It's honestly not, there's no measurement for it, to be honest with you. With the cilantro, you can do whatever you want. So just gonna grab it. We usually just kind of rough chop it. Again, like you're okay with having some big leaves in there. All right, cilantro in there. All right, so then for us, the only thing you have left is seasoning. So seasoning is a tough one. Obviously, people have different degrees to which they want things salty or peppery, mostly the salt. Best advice I can give for that is you cannot take away salt, so just add it slowly. You can always add it, you can never take it away. For us, the only two seasonings we use at the restaurant in our guac is cumin, like ground up cumin, and then we do a lime salt. So we're literally just taking the limes usually before we use them for the juice, get some of the zest in there, mix it up with some kosher salt, and that's what we use. We use it on our fries, we use it kind of in a lot of things, just kind of gives it a nice fresh taste. And the cumin, if you can, get whole cumin seed, grind it up yourself, gives you a better flavor, more aromas in there. It's kind of what you want to be doing. So, again, not really any measurements. You're just going to kind of, I'd go light to begin with the salt. Same with the cumin, and you can always add it after. And then you're probably going to end up wanting to add a bit more lime juice as well. So let's stir it all up and see what it looks like. So what you're looking for is kind of, like I said, if you have the right avocados, they're gonna be kind of nice and creamy, good texture. If it's not kind of mashed well or coming together when you're stirring it, you probably need a bit more lime juice, which is the case for me right now. And the thing with the lime juice, you can't really overdo it. I mean, you can to an extent, but you can always add things to kind of balance it out. So we'll add a bit more lime juice, see if it can get us where we want to be. Best way to figure out if you've put too much or not enough stuff, obviously, is taste it. Have some chips around, spoon, whatever you want, and that'll just tell you what you're missing. And that is basically guacamole, Mesa Fresca style. Like I said, people do it a lot of different ways. There's different flavors you like, different vegetables you like to an extent. Toss them in there, it's not gonna hurt it. Just kind of make things with your taste. All right, so next one we're gonna do is something that we have a ton of at Mesa Fresca, Pico de Gallo. Maybe a bit intimidating for some people because it does involve a lot of knife work. So ingredients you're gonna want, very similar to the guac, tomatoes, red onion, cilantro, lime juice, salt. We use jalapenos in ours too. It depends how spicy you like it. It won't necessarily blow your socks off if you use one jalapeno in a batch, especially this size. You're just trying to make for family and friends. So first thing you're gonna do, like I said with the last one, you're gonna grab a bunch of nice ripe tomatoes. You can use whatever you want, but like I said, because you're trying to, especially with the Pico, avoid all the moisture that comes with tomatoes, something firm with a tougher skin is your best bet. So I'll just, probably about 10 tomatoes, 12 tomatoes is what you're looking for. We're gonna do the same thing we did with the guacamole. You're just gonna quarter them all to start off with. Obviously it depends on the size of your tomatoes, how many people you have coming over. I'm probably gonna stop here to be honest with you. Just seems like more enough, they're pretty big tomatoes. Next part you're gonna do, just like before, you're gonna de-seed them all. So you don't have to do this part, but especially if you're preparing stuff ahead of time, there is a ton of liquid that comes from tomatoes in general, and if you're storing it in your fridge, if you're just even in a bowl, it'll settle and it'll make everything mushy. So if you can get rid of the seeds, I'd say go for it. A bit tedious, but worth it in the end. When you are doing these kind of dips, if you do want to keep the innards, there's not a ton you can do with them, but you can use them for a braise or for something else if you're trying not to waste anything, because it does seem like you're throwing away a lot of tomato. For our purpose, it makes sense, but yeah. All right, so seeds are out. Same thing as last time with the guacamole. You're just gonna line them up, and then you're just gonna dice the tomatoes, whatever size you want to do. There's no right or wrong to it. It's just whatever your preference is for when you're doing it. All right, tomatoes diced. Again, just grab a big bowl, something you got some room to move around with. Get them all in there. So next up for us, we do some jalapeno, like I said. So depending how spicy you like it or on the batch size, just find like a decent jalapeno. Tomatoes, like I said, Diodados, peppers. We get a ton of our peppers from Quattrochi's out on Montreal Street. If you have not been there, go check it out. Joe is awesome, and they have some really great product that you can't get at a whole lot of spots in town. So just gonna cut the ends off. Jalapenos, depending on the season, obviously can be super spicy. We de-seed them for what we're doing in the Pico. You can keep the seeds. Obviously, seeds are what make it spicy. If you have sensitivities or just are a little bit afraid, definitely put a glove on if you're de-seeding these. All you're doing is trying to get rid of the rind on the inside and most of the seeds. If you have a couple in there, not a big deal. What you don't want to do is be de-seeding peppers for any reason, especially jalapeno or hotter, and then rub your eye without washing your hands. It won't end well for anyone. So I just have one jalapeno. It's probably all we're gonna need. I might not even use all of it. Like I said, you can add it. It's kind of just, for us, it brings a bit of spice to it, but it's not one that you really want to be noticeable. I don't think a lot of people would necessarily guess that we have jalapeno in our Pico, but it's just a nice little flavor addition in there. So again, you're kind of just slicing it in long strips, and then I'm gonna flip them over and we're gonna dice them up just like we did with the tomatoes. With the jalapenos, you're probably wanting to dice it a little bit smaller just because you don't, like I said, you want it in there for the flavor. You don't want someone to be taking a bite and realizing that they just got a whole bunch of jalapeno in their mouth and it being too spicy. So just going straight in as well. Next for us will be red onion. I still have some red onion from the guac from before, so it's probably more than enough to be honest with you, so we're just going to use that. And then from there, again, just a mitt full of cilantro, however much you like or don't like. And we're just gonna rough chop that. No real size or dimension you need it. Just gonna mix in anyway. Cilantro done. With a lot of the stuff that we were doing at the restaurant, what you're looking for in the end is just to let the flavors come through of the produce. Like I said, you have a bunch of really good fresh ingredients. We don't put a ton of seasoning in things. In the guac, like I said, just cumin and our lime salt. In the Pico, just lime salt. I'm gonna juice a couple lemons for this size. Limes. For this size, we're probably going 2 or 3. Like I said, just taste it, mess around with it a bit, and it's whatever your personal preference is. I'll probably just do 2, to be honest with you, and then a bit of lime salt. When you're stirring is not super important, but if you are putting it into a container in the end, I would suggest a spoon, like a slotted spoon or something with holes in it. Again, as soon as you start mixing this and it's all together, you're gonna get a ton of moisture even without the seeds from the tomatoes, and that's not really what you want sitting in the bottom of your bowl if you're serving it or have it on the table for any extended amount of time. So once you start stirring it around, obviously, like I said, taste it, see what you're missing. If it looks like it's lacking something, add some more. If not, then you're ready to go. That's Pico. Pretty simple, all about the ingredients you have, and yeah. So there you go. About 20 minutes of your time, maybe a bit more. I still have tons of leftovers for amounts. You got a bowl with some guacamole and Pico de Gallo, Mesa Fresca style, that you can have your friends and family over for. Super simple. not overly time consuming, and people love it. Easy to have out for when you have guests over.